Welcome back.
We're continuing our interview here with Greg Drumboer, owner of Sedona Sacred Journeys. We're talking to him about his retreat organization. And the subject here is very near and dear to my heart. We're going to talk about inner children. I've worked with Greg doing some shamanic work and also with his Spiritual Warrior program. And in both of these programs, which are online programs, he has had me work on healing my own inner children, which was a tremendous experience. So, Greg, I'm just going to turn it over to you and let you talk about inner children.
Oh, no, I love questions. Well, so let me just, I have found in my own personal journey the quickest and most dramatic breakthroughs have come with healing my own inner children. And I have found a way to marry shamanism with that. And that's exciting, as you know. And I would, because sometimes, let me just kind of go back to clients. Clients have done a lot of forgiveness work in their life. Let's just say towards their parents, of course. Those are the ultimate people to forgive most of the time. But the inner children within them have not forgiven their parents. And that's why they're not moving forward as much as they would like. Because that's why they come to me. I'm quoting them, I still feel stuck. Okay. Well, maybe sometimes the reason is because we need to engage those inner children and give them a chance to have the trauma that they feel to be healed. And the number one way to do that with inner children is by acknowledging their feelings.
Do you find that clients, I found this myself, are afraid to deal with their inner children, or there's a challenge there with that? How do you deal with that and work with them?
Well, sometimes, and this happened the other day, is that the inner child is scared to come out. And so that's when some of my shamanic tools come into practice, is trying to find a way that child will feel safe to come out, but also honoring. Just to give you a simple example, if the child is afraid to come out, the response to the child would be, if you're dialoguing with them, is, I see you're really scared to come out. What's going on, right? You're mirroring their feelings. Just that alone is healing for an inner child, because it's like somebody's finally paying attention to them. Not, no, you're okay, you're okay. We're safe now, we're adults. You see, the inner child doesn't get that. And then you're going into identification listening.
I think that most of us don't realize that we have an inner child that needs to be healed. What are some examples of how would we know that? How could we identify that? Or how do you identify that in clients?
I think that's where clairvoyancy comes in. And the thing that I really didn't even realize this until I was writing some of the shamanic training work, is that I sort of knew it, but when I wrote it, then I went, oh my God, is that I'm able to clairvoyantly hear what the inner child is saying. Oh my God, I have no words to tell you how grateful I am. That's a gift that just has come to me. I have no words. So, to answer your question, sometimes when we get sad or we get reactive, it's not, and it doesn't make sense to us, it's not the adult in us that's reacting or sad, it's the inner child. I found that, it's a great story where once it's in one of those inner child assignments where I was working with the 8-year-old and really sort of talking with him. And I was at home, I was by myself, and I was watching something on TV. And it triggered something inside of me, and this sadness just overwhelmed me. I can't remember, it must have been 15 years since I felt like this. I wanted to run onto the covers. It was about 8 o'clock at night. I didn't know what to do. I just felt trapped in this sadness. But all of a sudden it dawned on me, wait a minute. And I brought up the inner child out of me, and that's kind of a longer story, right, as you know. And I'm looking at him, he's 8 years old, and I said, and he's sobbing, and I looked at him, I said, what's wrong? And he screams out, you're going to leave me. Now, of course, that's what happened when I was a kid. It was sort of a series of innocent abandonments, right? And I said, you think I'm going to leave you? Yeah. and And so I sort of talked to him more about that, just, you know, saying, I can see you really believe that, validating that. That must be really scary. Yeah, it is. And just by me saying that, going through that active listening, he started to calm down, right? And then when I saw him calm down, that's when I sort of said, well, remember what we talked about, that I'm never going anywhere? Oh, yeah, that's right. So you just needed to be reminded. And I said, well, what would make you feel better? He says, well, I'd love to get a hug. Okay, definitely. So I hugged him like I have clients do. And most clients, it's really amazing, can literally feel the physical presence of the inner child, right?
Right.
Yeah. And I told him I loved him, and I gave him the code, which is I go, you go, I go. And I said, well, what would you like to do now? This is so funny. He says, let's watch Nickelodeon. And I don't think I've watched cartoons in forever. Oh, it's really fascinating now. It's amazing stuff. So we're sitting on the couch, and we're watching it, and I looked down at him, and I could see he was really getting into it, right? This is so funny. And I said to him, well, listen, I got to go up and get a sandwich. Do you want anything? I said, he goes, well, can you bring me the brownie in the refrigerator? And I thought, how do you know I have a brownie? Well, of course he knows, because he is me, right? So I'm in the kitchen. This is when I really got it. And I'm making a sandwich for myself. And all of a sudden, I went, oh my goodness, the sadness is gone. Mm-hmm. And I mean, 15 minutes ago, I was completely collapsed from it, overwhelmed. I almost couldn't breathe from it. And it was gone. And that's when I really got at a deeper level that sometimes feelings that we have are coming from those inner children. Mm-hmm. And that simple process, which, you know, in the Spiritual Warrior program, you know that one of the new programs is I've broken out the assignment groups so that people can purchase them individually. Mm-hmm. And one of the first ones is inner child work. It's 8 assignments, 2 videos. So if people ever want to get into that, that's something they can definitely do.
I would highly recommend that.
Huh?
One other thing about inner children that really surprised me was that you can have multiple inner children. You have yourself. I found that I did. Can you talk a little bit about that, and how does that happen?
Well, sometimes it happens because of those specific ages is when something traumatic happened. Mm-hmm. You know, when mine was certainly at 2 years old when my dad left, 10 years old when I was sent away to boarding school in Europe, 16 or 17 years old is when I started drinking heavily, right? Mm-hmm. So that's not a hard and fast rule, but then 6 years old is when I had a big accident that really changed my life. I had 3 surgeries, hospital stays. I don't know if you know about that. Mm-hmm. So, you know, usually it's lined up with something that happened. Mm-hmm. You know, maybe the part of it that I bring is really, you know, in some of the assignment groups, is bringing these children out, as opposed to dialoguing with them from within. There are many different ways to do inner child work. We talked about earlier the journey work, where you literally drop inside of the child's body and you're looking out of his eyes or her eyes. Sometimes it's about talking with them. Sometimes I want it to be more, let's say, 3-dimensional. You know, where you literally go somewhere with them, right? Mm-hmm.
I know this is another passion of yours, just like couples, this inner children work, and you do a lot of it. Anything else you want to share with us? This is just such an important subject.
It's an enormous subject, and I encourage anybody to do it. I think if you're still having struggles, if you still feel stuck, and you haven't done the inner child work, explore that. Now, this happens a lot with retreat clients. They have done inner child work, but sometimes they haven't worked on an age that might have been crucial. But sometimes, like with mine, it might be an age that you don't consciously remember something, and then you need to find somebody to help you with that. Or that inner child just didn't get enough time, and you just needed more time. Or you needed to, you know, what happens sometimes, and that's why in that inner group of assignments I say, is that we will engage the inner children in sort of flashes, right? And then we move out of it and get back to our life. And in that week or 10 days in that assignment group, I try to get longer periods of time where you're engaging the inner child. I think that can be very helpful.
I found it was for me. Thank you so much for talking about this subject.
I'm deeply honored to be doing that work.
Thank you.